Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. Little Jackson is here in today's video because I literally cannot do anything unless I am holding him. He's been a rough little baby lately. We're dealing with major like reflux issues. He's like not sleeping, like mama's tired, like we're on the struggle bus these days. But while I'm like in the thick of it, like while I'm going through all of this, there are definitely some things that I still want to talk to you guys about. So forgive his grunting. Forgive his grunting in the background if you guys can hear it, which I'm sure you can. But today what I want to talk about is something that you guys have been asking me a lot about. You guys have been asking about like my mental health and just about postpartum depression and postpartum anxiety and all of that. And it's something that I haven't really talked a lot about here on my channel. So we're just gonna sit, obviously very informal style. I'm in my pajamas. I have a burp cloth over my shoulder and I have a crying baby. So this is as real life as it gets, and we're just gonna chat mom to mom, and hopefully you guys will either relate to this or hopefully it can just give you some insight into, you know, how another mom feels these days. So if you guys are new here, this is not my first baby. I have a 2-year-old toddler named Riley, and then I've got Jackson. Jackson is almost 1 month old. He'll be 1 month in a few days. And this time around, like I said, has been just a little rough just because he's been a little bit more difficult than Riley was as far as like getting him to sleep, and just the fact that he's uncomfortable all the time and he's just like not a happy camper. But with both of my babies, I do want to say that as far as like postpartum depression goes, I've never really had postpartum depression. And I thank the Lord every single day for that, because if I had to be like depressed on top of all of the other things that I'm going through, that would just not be very good for me. Obviously, I'm a new mom. I am sleep deprived. I have a toddler I'm chasing and a newborn baby that I can't settle. So that's not to say that I'm not sad sometimes. That's not to say that there are days that I don't cry. There are definitely moments when I find myself crying, like especially at night, like when I can't soothe him and he's just fussy. I have found myself crying, but I wouldn't say that I'm depressed. Like I said, I'm definitely tired. I am definitely annoyed sometimes. Like this little grunting annoys the crap out of me and there's nothing I can do about it. But I'm not depressed now. I wasn't ever depressed with Riley. I'm still like the happiest that I've ever been, despite the fact that I'm sleep deprived. I'm still very happy to wake up in the morning, and I find joy in a lot of things. Like I found joy in taking 5 minutes to do my makeup with one hand while I was holding him before I started filming this video. I try to stay as positive as I possibly can be, and I try to laugh as much as I can, because this whole situation sometimes makes me want to laugh, because like this is hard. This by far, transitioning to life with 2 kids, is the hardest thing that I have ever done. But I still try to laugh when I can, and like Riley sometimes will say stuff that just cracks me up, and even when she's having like a full-blown meltdown sometimes, I just have to laugh, because like what else are you gonna do? So mostly today what I want to talk to you guys, I think, is about postpartum anxiety, because that is what I have suffered with both Riley and with Jackson. I never knew that postpartum anxiety was a thing until after I had my children, until after I became a mom. And I wouldn't say that I've ever really been an anxious person to begin with. Like I've always been pretty cool, pretty like not anxious. I don't know how to describe like the opposite of anxious, but I never like suffered from anxiety to like this extent, at least until I gave birth to my children. In terms of anxiety, there are 2 different kinds that I want to talk about today. The first one is about time, and not necessarily that I don't have time for things. It's more about the fact that I've become, I don't know, it's gonna sound so weird, and all of this is just me kind of like rambling to you guys. But ever since I became a mom, I just am so much more aware of like the time that I have left on this earth. And I know that that sounds bizarre. Like obviously this is not a new concept, the fact that people live and then people die, but ever since I became a mom, I don't know how else to explain it except for the fact that I feel like I am like further along in like the circle of life, and I'm really sad about the fact that like I'm not going to be around forever for my children. And like I look at my grandparents and I look at my parents and I'm like, you know, shit, like they're not always gonna be here, they're not always gonna be around. And then I look at my kids and I get sad because I realize the same thing about me, and I don't know why that's not something like I ever really thought about until I gave birth. Like I find myself so sad thinking about like death and thinking about the fact that, again, our time here is limited. Right, so I just fed this little guy, but he will likely spit up and vomit all over me in like 2 seconds. But what I was trying to say is that it's almost like the minute that I became a mom, like an hourglass got flipped right in front of my face. And as soon as I became a mom, I became so much more aware of the fact that time is ticking, and that, I don't know, like I was just more aware of my mortality. And I know that that is super depressing, but I feel like up until that point, like I was never like really thinking about it. Like, especially as a kid, like you don't think that you're gonna get old and that you're gonna die. Like you look at old people and you think that old people are gonna get old and old people are gonna die. You just feel so like far removed from that. And I think that I just felt very removed from that concept until I became a mom myself. I don't know why that happened, but it's literally like a switch was flipped, and I've just been dealing with that for the past 2 years. Again, I know it's a super depressing topic, but it's just my story and what I've been dealing with. Now, how have I been dealing with that? I've really just been accepting the fact that there's nothing that I can do to control that, and trying to come to terms with the fact that that's just part of life, and trying to enjoy life to its fullest and making the most out of the time that I have with the people that I love. And that's about it. Now, the other thing that I want to talk about as far as postpartum anxiety goes is something that's kind of hard for me to talk about, because like I'm just gonna sound like a crazy person. And I know that you guys are all sweet, and I know that you guys are going to be very supportive, but it's still hard to talk about because like it's just not something that I've shared too much about before. But I very much feel like ever since I became a mom, I feel like I'm gonna die all the time. And that's different from the other concept that I was talking about. But oh, he spit up. But I literally have like a worst case scenario mentality where like any little thing I think is catastrophic, and I just have like the weirdest concepts come into my brain of ways that either my children are gonna get hurt or I'm gonna get hurt. Like anything as far as like driving. Like first of all, anytime that I drive on the street, I think that I'm going to never come back home because I'm gonna get in a car accident. So that's something that I struggle with. And then like little things, like to give you an example. So like I was nursing Jackson the other day, and he's like, you know, nursing at my breast, and while I was nursing him, I was eating sour Skittles because that's what I do when I nurse. I just eat candy. And what came into my brain was, oh my god, like what if as I'm taking a sour Skittle out of the bag, like he happens to open his mouth up and my fingers release the sour Skittle by accident. Like I drop a sour Skittle and it goes down his throat and he chokes and he dies. Like those are the things that come into my brain. Welcome to my life. Anytime that I'm like driving over a bridge, like any kind of like highway, I instantly think that the highway is going to crack open and then I'm going to fall and plummet to my death. If Riley is anywhere, like even if it's like a screened porch, but like it's like a 2-level, like a 2-story, it's like screened in porch, I think that somehow the screen is gonna break and she's going to fall and die. Just little things like that, that just, it's like hard to shut that down. But I always think of the randomest things that are going to injure myself or my children. I am paranoid, like petrified of like mass shootings and stuff, so I hate going anywhere. Like I won't go to the movie theater. I will always wait for a movie to come out like on iTunes, because for me the amount of anxiety that I get sitting in a movie theater, it's not worth going to the movies. Like I would much rather watch it at home and eat candy and popcorn, and I don't have to worry about people coming and shooting me. And again, I know that like there are gonna be people that say like, oh my god, you can't live your life that way. Like I am well aware of that. Like I am trying to work on it as best as I can, but it's just where my mind goes. My mind goes to a very dark place. The biggest thing that I'm afraid of these days is like the whole human trafficking. So I am like terrified of going anywhere by myself, like especially when I'm like out with the kids. He is grabbing onto my hair like there's no tomorrow. Okay, give me back my hair. I used to be terrified just going to Target alone with Riley, and now that I have like the 2 kids, like I don't know how I'm ever gonna go anywhere because that's just that much harder. But I am terrified of going somewhere and someone like just like snatching me up in the parking lot, or like snatching up my kid in the parking lot, or like my biggest fear is like going to Target and for some reason like I turn around for like 1 second and I turn back around and Riley's missing or one of my kids is missing. And again, I know that the probability of that happening is like tiny. Like that doesn't happen, right? Like I mean, it happens occasionally, sometimes it happens, but I know that the chances of that happening are so tiny. And I know that I can't live my life that way. I know that I have to, you know, not be afraid to do things, but it's the stuff that crosses my mind, and it's the stuff that I have a lot of anxiety about, and the stuff that I lose sleep about, and the stuff that I'll be thinking about when I'm supposed to be sleeping, but this child is keeping me awake. And again, those are all things that just became so much more like prevalent in my mind, like ever since I became a mom. Before I became a mom, I was pretty much fearless, like especially like as a teenager. Good God, I would go anywhere by myself. I would do my own thing. I really wasn't afraid of much of anything, but now I am. Now I am scared of anything. Oh my God, like especially like I live in Florida right now, and like if Riley is like even like anywhere remotely close to like a lake or something, I absolutely instantly think that an alligator is going to snatch her up and grab her, and she's gonna die in a lake with an alligator, even though she is nowhere close to the lake. Like, these are the things that I have to tell myself, like, it's in your head. Obviously, you need to be prepared to a certain extent. You have to be like aware and vigilant, and if you're going somewhere by yourself, I know that you have to, you know, like be aware of your surroundings, and there are certain things that you can do to minimize the likelihood of something bad happening. So I'm working on that. I'm working on like just doing the best that I can, but still living my life. So if you guys have any suggestions for that, let me know down below. But that's really the extent of what I wanted to talk about today. Now you guys know a little bit more about me. Now you guys have a little bit more insight into just how my brain works. And again, these are not things that I don't know, like. I think definitely I would change them if I could, but I don't know how. But again, the purpose of making this video was so that if you guys go through anything similar, remotely similar, if you have thoughts that, I don't know, are somewhat like this, that you guys know that you're not alone. I don't see anything wrong at all with talking to someone, going to counseling. I've seen a counselor before in my life. I am not ashamed of that at all. I think it's definitely helpful to share your thoughts with other people who love you, other people that can give you some good advice. So definitely, whether you're feeling like you're experiencing postpartum depression or anxiety, definitely talk to someone if you have someone in your life that you can confide in. Motherhood is very difficult. Postpartum life is very difficult, and there are so many emotions and just new things that you're dealing with now when you're taking care of a tiny human. And here we go, the spit up. Great. So know that a lot of those feelings are just perfectly normal and part of the process, and you know, just try to find some help where you can. Something else that I've talked about here on my channel is about postpartum resentment, and you guys might want to go check out that video, because I talk about like how I was feeling a lot of resentment towards my husband when I first became a mom, and I will link that video down below. I think that's something that resonated with a lot of people, just the fact that like I resented how much freedom he had, and the fact that I was the one pretty much like stuck doing all the stuff with my baby. So again, go check that video out. I think you guys might find it helpful. But if you guys feel like sharing your stories down below, I encourage you to do so. If you guys have any tips or advice for anyone else, like that's what this community is here for. I just ask that you guys be kind. Anyone who is brave enough to share their story or their struggles deserves kindness. So be nice to each other. Do not be mean, or just be a nice person, and be nice to me too, because I know that there's a possibility that people can just think I'm absolutely crazy. Just be nice to me down below in the comments. But as always, thank you guys so much for taking the time out of your day to listen to me ramble. Thank you guys so much for like all of your love and your support, and for watching me on this journey through being a mom for the second time. Again, I don't have all the answers, but I try to share just what I'm going through in hopes that it helps at least one other person. But thank you guys so much for watching, and if you guys did enjoy this video, make sure to give it a thumbs up, subscribe if you're new, and we will see you guys in the next one. Bye guys.